your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and it is a pleasure to be with you here on the program. To talk with our very special guest here on the program today, who's going to be bringing us a very interesting subject that could be perplexing for some. The book is entitled, Sometimes You Should Be Late. My guest is Alex Snider. And Alex, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Richard. Great to be here.
Yeah, well, now I have a question for you. It's 16 minutes, quarter hour into the regularly scheduled time. So am I living up to the title of your book that, I'm a little late in us getting started here?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sitting here kind of watching my own mind and having a bit of a linear process of like, well, I showed up on time and it didn't work out the way I planned, and noticing my first stories around like all the things on my to-do list and maybe even some like subtle judgments about sort of this operation. And then there's also a deeper story around common humanity, sort of the moments when I've double booked things, and the moments when I've told someone I'd be there at 3 o'clock and it's 3:15, 3:20, I'm not there.
Mm.
And so to your question about where are we today, and my answer is we're exactly where we need to be, because this was not a kidney transplant operation. The stakes are reasonable, and I'm just glad to be here. How does that resonate with you?
Well, it does. I mean, I'm always initially a little uncomfortable starting late. Now, if you and I had been conversing from the beginning of that time until now, 15 minutes, that would be different. But I had some interruptions, if you will. And the previous interview ran a little long because we were deep in conversation. But you and I are going to be deep in conversation in a moment as we explore, as you've got it here, what happens when urgency becomes the unconscious organizing force for modern life. And that's interesting because we, on the station where these programs are heard, there's a gentleman who does these little vignettes. They're called Our Town. And he has one where he talks about how, I don't know. He says, I don't know if this is just Santa Barbara or elsewhere where, people think it's okay to show up late to the hairdresser or to the barber or to this appointment or that appointment, and then of course uses the one phrase, Santa Barbara, how controlling, that you think that it's okay for you to be on a Santa Barbara time, as he kind of puts it, instead of you made a commitment to be there on time at this particular time. Why aren't you there? And I have to wonder if, we just chalk it up to "Well, it's life, or as was used, the phrase that was used when I was working for a local TV station in Santa Barbara by a lot of the younger folks. When something would go wrong, they would say, it's all good. And it's like, no, it's not, because, and I would explain why it's not, because it's not running properly, or it's out of sync, or it's not on time, or, whatever the case might be. Um, how did this concept and idea first come to you? And then you said, I need to put this into the context of a cover, front and back cover, to share with others, because it's important. Because it's important to me, I think it should be important to others.
Yeah. I noticed I'm excited about sharing that story, but I also want to slow down with what you're sharing about Santa Barbara time.
Hmm.
And from what I'm understanding is that in the context that you're in, rigid punctuality isn't the norm. And
Hmm.
what I found particularly interesting about what you said is you talked about controlling behavior by being late. And in the world that I'm in, sort of Washington, D.C., fast-paced world, usually the controlling behavior is by those who are, no, like this meeting starts at 2 o'clock, where are you? And so it's interesting, and I'm fascinated by talking about the controlling behavior of being late.
Mm.
And what comes up to me in particular is, the book is called Sometimes You Should Be Late. It's not called Always You Should Be Late. And it's not called Never You Should Be Late. And so when you're talking about showing up to a hair appointment 10, 15 minutes late, what comes up for me isn't so much a rigid rule of you should always be on time, but what is the cultural context? What is the thought process, the feeling process of those who are showing up late? If it's you, if it's me, is it because something really important came up? Is it because rushing to something where you might have to wait anyway isn't the right decision? Or is it a sense of like, my time is more valuable than yours? You can
Mm.
wait for me because I'm paying you for this service. And so my book isn't about rules. It's not even about sort of prevailing cultural norms. For me, it's about choice and about our values. The origin of the book. I spent 15 years in government. Before that, I was in, pretty top tier schools and I wanted to perform really well. And so meeting deadlines, performing, that was sort of in my DNA. And then I had a bike accident. A bike accident led to a pretty gnarly head injury, concussion, and that took me away from this speed and doing to a place of understanding my new context and this new body that was recovering very slowly and that wanted to make sense of this new reality. And that led me, which is why I'm interested to be on your show, into this new paradigm of like what actually matters. And were the things I was rushing towards, whether that was a proverbial hair appointment or trying to get the next promotion or get this policy unveiled in a certain way, was that the most important thing? Or was there something else? And so what I found was that we missed a lot of things when we were rushing. In my personal capacity, like rushing with family to go to a restaurant and kind of yelling at each other about, oh, we said we'd leave at this time and we're there, but also rushing our colleagues, saying, hey, come on, get on board. Like, we agreed to do this thing. Like, why are you dragging your feet? And how we be pushing towards one goal, but we lose the thread. And so this book is about remembering the thread, remembering what actually matters, and not letting kind of this pervasive urgency become the one thing that matters. So I'm curious what comes up for you as I share that.
Mm. Well, it's like I schedule, for example, these interviews. They're important to me, absolutely, because the information that we share is important. And to either overbook or go in late, I it's not intended to be disrespectful. However, that would be my perception. And again, this is of myself, is that okay? I really need to work on that because I want to show respect to the guests, to the people who have taken time out of their busy schedule to be a part of this endeavor called "Tell Me Your Story." And it doesn't happen often, but it still happens. Maybe, I don't know, 1, 2% of the time. And I do a lot of interviews each week, sometimes 5 or 6 that that I then have to edit and put together and so forth. And that's another aspect of it too, is I think about, okay, I've done the interview. Now I wait for the file to decompress so I can put it into my editor and do that and get it up there as soon as I can. And, you know, some days are busier than others. Some days I have to take care of other things around the house. I mean, my wife and I now, I work remotely 100% of the time. So I'm here at the house all the time. And then, of course, there's the other issue that I think I shared with you just before we started about how while I'm doing these interviews, emails and texts come in. And I can't really focus on those in any way, shape, or form because then I detract from my attention from you, for example, you know, and that's not respectful either. Um, your time is as valuable as my time. I don't know, maybe more. It's hard to say. But that's something that I think that is worthy of discussion from the standpoint of how we make those shifts. Have you come up with any kind of, I don't necessarily want to say formula per se, but a loose protocol or steps that one can take to better facilitate being so shall we say being on time, as well as being focused on what it is that you're on time about, like for example these interviews, and not checking email and not checking texts in spite of how important or urgent they might be. It's like, oh my goodness, I mean, how do we how do we prioritize, how do we organize, and you know, because we made these different commitments. So you know, what are your thoughts in regards to that, and as far as your book is concerned?
Mm. Well, I'll start with in saying that you're doing it and you're doing the most important step. And there's no formula in my book. There's no here are your 5 quick ways to optimize your morning so you look good, you lose weight, and all those different things. My book is about 2 parts. The first part is awareness, and the second part is choice. And what you're doing, talking about these podcast interviews, is you're bringing awareness to some of the costs of being late. You talk about wanting to honor the guest time. I'm imagining also you want to have some time to prepare for the conversations. You want to not be rushed in sort of having one call end and having another start. And so for me, it's as simple as slowing down with what is the impact of that?
Hmm.
And you talked about phones, email. How does it feel to have my attention fragmented? How does it keep me out of connection with the person I'm talking to on a podcast interview, my family member, even the grocery store clerk? What is the difference between being off your phone and checking out at the grocery store and looking that person in the eye versus staring down at your email, you're filling out a form for the bank while you're in line? What does that feel like? And how does that align with your values? The second part of the book is about choice and about how we can build in different framing, different routines, different ways of thinking that really enable us to access the wisest part of ourselves and give us choice. So let me give you an example. So there's a chapter called the kindness buffer. And one of the things that I noticed there is that the advice of if you want to be on time, leave early is probably the most common advice you'll hear. And I repeat that in the book. But what I say is the framing is all wrong. The goal, Richard, is not for you to be on time for this interview with me. The
Hmm.
goal is for the timing of this interview and the way that you show up for it to align with the way that you would like to show up. And so if you have an emergency and a crisis happening in your life right now, I sure as hell hope that you would cancel this interview or show up 20 minutes late. But building in that buffer, deciding how you want to show up, that shapes the way that you want to engage with time before this interview. Not so you're not late, but so that you can show up in a way that honors how you want to be in the context of this interview. Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. Ties into my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life. That's really what it's all about. And our lives are nothing but choices. They really are. People might go deeper than that and say, well, no, it's this, it's that. Every step you take is a choice. Stepping backwards is a choice, to the side, forwards. It's funny. I was talking with someone years ago when I first moved to California in Santa Barbara. And of course, I hear all this business about all the regulations that are going on here, and of course, I look at those and I'm going, well, but the reason they were first initiated because business refused to do the right thing. Okay, fine. But today they've gone a little crazy. And I've used this analogy. You're standing on a chess or checkerboard, black and white checkerboard. All right. You're standing in the middle on either a black or a white square. And here are the rules. You can't move forward. You can't move backward. You can't move to the left. You can't move to the right. And you can't go diagonally. Oh, there is one more. You can't stay there. That's how bad regulations have gotten overall. I'm not saying get rid of them all, but we need to get rid of some of them that keep us from doing and accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. And I'm thinking that obviously there's no regulation that's going to make force people to be on time any more than the laws that we have on the books keep us from not committing crimes, because obviously down through human history, we're still killing one another. We're still hurting one another. We're still stealing
but
from
here's
one
the
another.
complexity, Richard. You talk
Yes.
about sort of no regulation that can force people to be on time. I don't think that's a goal worth pursuing.
No, I agree.
So let's say, like I gave the example of like an emergency in your life, but let's just have a more mundane one. So you're a supervisor and you're having a one-on-one with your employee. It's scheduled for 30 minutes, and after that 30 minutes, you've got a meeting with, say, a different team to discuss a project. At minute 28 in that conversation, your direct report says, "Yeah, I've been hesitating to tell you, but like I think I'm getting divorced, and it's just been really hard for me." And I just don't know, like, I need some, I'm having a hard time. Do you look at your watch and say, all right, I got to go to the next meeting? Or
Yeah.
do you give that moment the attention it deserves?
Mm.
And I'm really grateful to hear that this idea of choice resonates with you, because that's what we have to do in those moments. We have to remember that we have a choice, that being punctual for that meeting, it's important, but it's not the only thing that's important.
Mm. Well, it is something that eventually I think we do come to grips with. But I'll tell you what, one of the things that I found so interesting in my life over the years is that punctuality in that context um, has always been important to me. And for the most part, I have always been on time. What is that old saying? That if you are 15 minutes early, you're on time. And if you're on time, you're late. I never, I never necessarily agreed with that. But at the same time, I sit there going, okay, my appointment is at 10 o'clock. And normally it will take 20 minutes to drive there. So what I'm going to do in preparation for possible delays, I'm going to leave 30 minutes early. So I've got a 10-minute buffer. If I get there early, all right, maybe I'll get on my phone, take care of some emails, some texts, that kind of thing. And then at, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes to the top of the hour, I'm going to go ahead and go on in so that they know I'm there ready for the 10 o'clock meeting. And when I hear people constantly being late, I'm thinking, well, you do realize that that's on you and you should have started earlier. But everybody makes their own, if you will, choices. You made a
Yeah.
choice to write this book. Did you meet the proverbial deadline? Or are you self-published where your deadline was whatever you chose to make it?
Yeah, I'll answer that, and then I want to loop back to something you said too.
Okay.
I have a publisher, and we met our deadline, which was interesting though, because along the way there were many moments when my publisher was like, "We need your draft by this time," and there were some times where I met the deadline, and some time when it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, "You know what? I need 3 more days." And so there was some kind of buffer, some wiggle room built into it. And it was a process of kind of discernment for me as a writer, fitting writing a book, fitting wanting the book to be a certain level of feeling done and polished
Mm-hmm.
within the contours of my life, family obligations, sleep, sick days. Like writers get sick days too, even though we don't get paid for them. And so, yes, there were deadlines, and yes, we met the published date. And there were also moments when we had to sort of be flexible with that, to recognize that that's part of the process too, and part of the ways you can build that in to your point about leaving early.
Mm. Well, I know that as we move through this life and this particular reality and so forth, that there are some deadlines that you really need to meet. I think about, there's the one where April 15th, midnight, you better have that form in there. Otherwise, there's going to be a price to pay. By the way, I do like the image on the cover of your book, a sloth. Makes me think of Sid the sloth I think the movie is called is called Ice Age. Um, and that's a fun film, and love watching and listening to Sid talk. I can't remember the actor's name that does the voice, but nonetheless, do you find in your life and your experience with other people that most people are on time, or when would you say it is good to be late in that regard? Hmm.
I think it starts by honoring the diversity of our planet. So, zooming out, you have a globe behind you on your background,
Mm-hmm.
different countries, different parts of different countries, from small towns to large towns, from New York City to Santa Barbara, from, you know, Massachusetts to, you know, Mali in West Africa. There are kind of different prevailing norms about moving through time. Zooming in to different people, those with ADHD, those with autism, move through time differently. Nature moves through time differently. You talked about sloths.
Mm-hmm.
I use the image of a sloth and a rabbit throughout my book to sort of illustrate two different ways nature moves through time. It's this is for me one of the funnest things. So rabbits move really quickly to avoid predators. Sloths move very slowly to avoid predators. And so they're two different survival strategies, and they're both adapted to different environments, different conditions. And so to your question about when we should be late and, why are people late? It's because there's different contexts that exist in this world.
Mm.
And you talked about, April 15th tax day, and there's specific deadlines there, and there's certainly reasons to not wait until the last minute to do your taxes. And also, like, filing an extension is a really great thing to do sometimes. And that's okay. You're not a failure, you're not a bad person. You just had a lot of stuff going on, and you weren't able to prioritize that and the executive functioning and all the things in your life. And it's okay to file an extension.
Alex Snider, my guest. He's a writer, facilitator, meditation teacher, former government strategist, and he has written a book called Sometimes You Should Be Late, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Reverend Dr. D, along with Alex Snider. And there are those who would say that there are certain instances in one's life where, boy, I'm glad I was late because I avoided this, that, and the other thing, like maybe a car wreck or something of this nature. Um, is that something that is factored in any way? Is that part of the equation that we're talking about? Or is that sort of a side benefit, so to speak? Because at the same time, it could work the other way where, oh my God, I'm running late. And then, of course, now you're traveling a little faster than you should. You don't have quite the control over the vehicle and you make a misstep and then you end up with a bigger problem than just being late to an appointment.
Yeah. I would put both of those contexts of sort of like something where you're late and something either good or bad happens, or you're early and something good or bad happens, to the mysterious way that life works. I tell the story in the book about someone who, her name is Mia. She arrived to the airport like 3 hours early for her flight. And most people would say, "What are you doing? What a waste of your time." And she was sitting in the lounge waiting for her flight, and she met someone, and she's now married to him because she was ridiculously early. She had this beautiful thing happen. And life is mysterious. We don't know what's going to happen. And so
Mm,
my book is about going from this binary of like, oh, I have to get there right on time or else I'm wasting my life. Or if I'm a little bit late, like, what's the worst that could happen? It's about having this complexity, this openness, this aliveness to the decisions we're making and how there can be good sides and bad sides in all different contexts.
mm,
And I think for the most part, I want to soften this kind of allegiance to urgency and punctuality, not because they don't matter, and we can get into sort of why they matter and sort of the beauty behind that. My father is someone who's deeply punctual, sort of slavishly so, I might even say, but it's coming from a beautiful place. But
mm-hmm,
it's softening this sort of reactive, I have to be on time, I have to be there, or this reactive, oh man, just chill, it's fine, I'll be 20 minutes late. That's also kind of a reactive, unhelpful approach. And so it's about softening this addiction towards one or the other and instead saying, like, well, what's possible here?
mm. Yeah, it can be perplexing. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. I know that there are those, and I'll be the first one to admit, even in this moment, for some strange reason, even though here we are in the midst of this interview, we've been talking for almost 30 minutes. We got another 20, 25, 30 minutes to go, hopefully. And yet I am still bothered by the fact that not just that we started late, and again, if we'd been conversing from the beginning for 15 minutes, wouldn't bother me in the least because we were sitting there chatting away, having a good conversation. Hey, let's get the interview going here. All right, let's get this recorded, and away we go. And it was all that other stuff, plus the fact that, and again, it happens. I double booked. Somehow I managed to double book, and it wasn't on my calendar. And I feel badly from the standpoint that, oh man, the guy was all set. He was ready to go. And I had to say, well, let's reschedule because I made a mistake. I try not to use that word because my belief is that we have life lessons and learning experiences. That's the way I put that. They aren't actually mistakes. It's just, okay, I've learned that I need to keep better track of the incoming emails and the confirmations to interviews and so forth. And Yet I had that happen to me this morning. I had one of my guests did not show up at 9 o'clock local time. So I sent a text, I sent emails and so forth. And they said, well, I thought we had this set up for Thursday, this coming Thursday, for example. Well, we didn't miss the interview. I actually had the slot available. And so we're going to pick it up, the following week at the same time. Yeah, my time is valuable. So I guess there's sort of a universal balancing act going on there in one day.
Totally.
I
And
was
I
sort
love
of,
I love the example, Richard, because
yeah,
it's sort of one in, one out. It's,
yeah,
you know, it's someone, didn't show up for you and you didn't show up for someone and like that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your guest this morning was doing what he needed to do.
Yep.
And I'm imagining that, you had this extra time and I'm imagining you found something good to do with that time. It wasn't like, oh God, my life is gone. And even just in these moments while I was waiting for you, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this time. And I finished up some tasks and sent it off to my marketing person. And, it wasn't a waste. It was
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal.
Well, I
And
will.
one of the
Go
things
ahead. Go
that
ahead.
one of the jokes I tell in my book, which is this one, when someone is like 2 minutes late or 10 minutes late for something that really isn't a big deal, and they're like, "I'm so sorry, I'm so really awful." My favorite thing to say is, "I don't mind as long as you feel really bad about it." Because as long as you're like going to take this to your deathbed and feel really guilty about this, then I'm good.
Yeah. I will
And
say
it's
that on this day, okay, I have had universal balance, okay, from that standpoint, and that's a good thing. And the other part of it too is this: the more challenging it is to get a guest on the program, whether it's rescheduling and doing all these things, um, that just means that how much better that interview is going to be. It isn't a reflection on any other interview, this one or any other. It's just that, all right, then that interview is going to be a good one for this guest. It's going to be we're gonna go deep and we're going to have a great time and so forth. I'm curious about, especially as I love this part of it here, where you have a a website by the name. If I'm actually scrolling down through this, here it is. And this is a great website, folks. I love this. Slowmindfulness.com. So, is there a website, as far as you know, or a practice called fast mindfulness?
well, this is the thing, Richard, and this is where the name comes from. There's not, but implicit in the ways that we talk about mindfulness and meditation in the predominant world that we're in,
Mhm.
all mindfulness is fast mindfulness. It's
Hmm.
the meditation apps that say, here's your 90-second practice to start your day. It's sort of the corporate, like quarterly meditation session, and then go back to your like life of like meeting impossible deadlines. It's become a fast practice of like, how can I be most efficient about my wellness? How can I optimize my meditation time? And to me, that defeats the purpose a little bit.
Hmm.
And I also talk about in the book one of the one of the reasons in my experience reading a lot of self-help books, a lot of personal growth books, and the reason that they're not transformative is because I skim them, I rush through them. My goal is to finish them, not to actually sit with them and say, "Huh, what's
Hmm.
changed in me? Like, what might I try? What would be a way to bring this into my life like right now?" And so slow mindfulness is about shifting our pace enough so that we can actually notice what we're doing. So I can notice that, I have a super busy couple days. I have my book launch coming up next week, that there's a lot going on in my mind. And fast mindfulness is like, all right, I'm gonna do a 5 minute meditation and then just like rush on. And slow mindfulness is, okay, like I'm noticing that I'm feeling a little bit stressed and maybe there's something I can take off my to-do list. And maybe I can push this deadline because that actually is going to settle me more. And
Hmm.
what actually matters here? Is it matter if I'm like super frenetic with Richard and thinking about all these things and planning my thing and multitasking? Is that what this moment is calling for? Or do I take this moment to appreciate the chance that someone so generously wants to hear about my book and ask me questions about it and be present for that?
Hmm. Yeah. And that's the same thing here because there have been interviews where I am literally multitasking during the interview because I needed to take care of this or that or whatever the explanation is. I don't want to say excuse, but whatever the explanation is, why I'm multitasking. And one of the things that really keeps me on track in that regard is that when I'm not multitasking, boy, number one, the time just flies by. It's like, really? We just did an hour? Whoa, where'd the time go? But number two is, and I've gotten these comments before, oh my God, you guys really went deep. You guys went really deep into that, whatever it was that we were talking about. And I want to ask you to go a little deeper. You talk here about, again, the slowmindfulness.com, which will be linked to, by the way, so that people can find out more about you and the work you're doing and this whole slow mindfulness aspect. I want to talk a little bit more about not just your background, but what I like to refer to as your inner life. And we'll do that in just a moment as we slow things down just a little bit here on Tell Me Your Story. Welcome, as we always like to say, to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. I wrote a book that celebrates its second anniversary come this September called Choices, 5 Steps for Life. Now, its impetus goes back to 2001 when my wife was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. And it was like, I think the 16th, 17th, or 18th of July of that year. And then she went through surgery on August 10th. And as she was going in, I asked her the question that is quoted in the book at the beginning. Do you want to live or do you want to die? I may not like your choice, but I will support you in it, whatever that choice is. So if she had chosen not to go through the surgery, not to go through the chemo, just to let it do its thing, and then she's gone in a few years, I wouldn't have liked it. I don't have to, but I will support her in it. I will not be there to try to convince her to do something she doesn't want to do. That was 2001, the summer thereof. And it wasn't until about 2003 or 4 that I thought, I need to take that flyer that I created for her and I need to maybe expand on each one of those 5 steps that I shared with her in that I plastered all over the house just to kind of keep her focused. Because I'd heard that a really cool thing to do for someone who's not feeling real well is to write these little notes all over the place and put them in the sock drawer, in the silverware drawer, maybe in the dishwasher or the oven before you turn it on. You just hey, I love you. I'm thinking of you, this, that, and the other thing. Oh, which is rather interesting because as we were unpacking and I was going through one of my file drawers, I came across those kinds of notes that my first wife left for me when she went off to guide dog school. Anyway, back to choices. And I thought I should really maybe expand on that. And that was 2003, 2004, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9. I won't go through all the years. And then the middle of the teens, I'm going, okay, I'm going to publish this year. And it didn't happen. And I'm talking with my guests about, oh yeah, I'm going to make sure that by the end of this year, it'll be my Christmas present to myself. I'm going to publish. And that year goes by and New Year's and around again and around again, around again and around and around and around. And finally, in June of 2024, I said, I'm going to do this. And I was set up with Amazon's, self-publishing page. And I said, and I want to do it in September because that's the month of my mother's birth. And she'll be 92 this year, by the way. Oh, boy, she's doing great, by the way. And I thought, well, if I publish it on the 17th, it won't even be available until like the 20th or 21st or whatever. So I published it early, but I published it. And it's epitomized what my mother's review. Congratulations on publishing your book. And whether you make a ton of money from this, at least you can say that you published it. And then, of course, she added, by the way, I learned things about you I always wanted to know. That's one of the reasons I asked you the question about the publishing of your book. It was like, on the one hand, I procrastinated, but then again, I was counseled over and over and over again, Richard, it will come out when it's time. Is that a philosophy that you think is appropriate? more so if you plan something and so forth, as opposed to, again, like we've been kind of talking about these personal meetings, getting somewhere on time. Maybe there's a project and we want to complete it. We see it in our mind's eye, but it's just not getting finished. Is that from your perspective as a slow mindfulness meditator, shall we say, that maybe that's a good perspective to take, that, hey, cut yourself some slack. At least it's still in your mind. You're still thinking about it and you still want to have it come to fruition.
Yeah. The refrain in my book is that the point is not to go slow, the point is to choose. And so you use the word procrastination, which has a bit of a judgmental sort of overtone to it.
Mhm.
The hard thing about our life, whether that's writing a book, applying for a new job, starting a new hobby, going for that vacation you've always wanted to go to, is that it's never a choice that's isolated in itself. It's always connected to other choices and other patterns of our life. And so what I feel is the real offering of my book is to say there is no rule for how long it should take you to publish that book. 2 years, 20 years, never. And it's okay, any one of those. The key is for you to connect with what feels important for you. And so maybe for you, sort of saying, you know what, like, I really will feel accomplished if I get this out by my mother's birthday. And I'm going to make some choices in my life to prioritize that over taking that vacation or other projects. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being productive and setting deadlines. The thing is to do it consciously, to recognize what the trade-offs are, including the trade-off of self-flagellating if you're not hitting it. And one of the things that I was deeply committed to in this book, and I talked to a lot of people who wrote books. I've read a lot of, comments from authors about the process of writing, and they all compare it to like childbirth or torture or these awful things. And I didn't buy it. I still don't buy it, and I wasn't going to buy it. And I said, I'm choosing to do this, and I'm going to enjoy it. And not like being Pollyanna about it, saying, oh my God, it's so great. Like my fifth revision and it's still shitty. But to sort of locate it in the sense of like, I chose to do this. And what a gift that I feel like I have something to offer the world that is, 240 pages long and has a nice cover, and that people have an opportunity to read, to experience, to reflect on, to bring into their life. And that was what I tried to come back to. And I have a
Mm.
chapter in my book, chapter 7, called When You're Late, Slow Down. And by late, what I mean is literally late, like you're late, your Google Maps ETA says you're going to get there 5 minutes after. You're figuratively late of thinking, oh, shoot, I meant to publish this book 2 years ago. Here I am. Slowing down means taking time with that moment and saying, what is the wisest choice now?
Mm.
What does this moment require? And one example is I had a writing block one Saturday morning for my book, and I got an invitation to go on a bike ride for my dear friend's birthday. And I faced that fork in the road. Do I honor this commitment to my book, or do I honor this deep friendship? And there was no right or wrong choice. But for me to feel into, you know what, this friendship's really important. And yes, I have this goal of writing my book, and I can make other choices to sort of adjust, but I want to honor this friendship. And that doesn't mean I was forsaking my book. It doesn't mean I was procrastinating. It means I was being conscious of the trade offs and making a values driven choice to align my actions with my choices.
Mm. I love what one of my friends, as well as co-hosts of another podcast or program that I do called Body of Health, Dennis Henson. He's an inspirational writer, among other things. He's into real estate, and one of the things he says, because people will worry about being late. I mean, it's kind of like what I was sharing earlier. And he says, okay, you are worrying about the outcome. If it doesn't happen, your worrying didn't change that. And if it does happen, your worrying didn't bring it about. So it's kind of like, why worry? I have a great poster that was given to me in my 20s about worrying because that's what I did way back then. A lot of worrying, right? I don't know if it's hereditary via my Irish heritage or not, but it's I'm sure you've probably heard this. Why worry? You're either going to live and be healthy, or you're going to get sick. And if you stay healthy, you're not nothing to worry about. If you get sick, you only have two things to worry about: you get better or you get worse. And if you get better, nothing to worry about. If you get worse, two things: you're either going to live or you're going to die. If you live, nothing. If you die, you only have two things to worry about: you're going to heaven or hell. If you go to heaven, nothing to worry about. You go to hell, you got you won't have time to worry because you'll be too busy shaking hands with friends. And there is a real truth to that when it comes to it, because it's one thing if you're late on something, whether it's the publishing of a book or you're late to a meeting or whatever. But then you then put another layer on it of worrying about being late. And that does, and then this goes back to what you were just saying about the slowing down and being more mindful, right?
Yes, but I feel a desire to add some complexity here.
Please, please.
I think in many ways, I wrote this book for people in my life who were so worried about being late, but were such kind, caring people. And worrying about sort of this guilt, this self-flagellation, this shame around being late was really causing them problems. They were feeling unwell, they were feeling bad about themselves, and they weren't actually able to be present because they were so worried about that.
Hmm.
And there are people in my life, and if I'm totally honest, there are times where I did not worry enough about being late. I didn't consider the implications on other people, relationships, meetings of showing up 5 minutes late. And so my book is not saying don't worry about being late.
Uh-huh.
It's about worry consciously. Put that worry in a context of saying, okay, like, yeah, I'm having a job interview, and if I show up 5 minutes late, I worry they might think I'm not serious or that I'm not professional.
Mm-hmm.
And put that in the context of, okay, I'm in a traffic jam and there's no literal way to go any faster. And if I speed dangerously, I might get in an accident. And you should worry about those things too.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about putting it in context and ones that go back to our values. And I think it's also located in a relational context too. There are
Mm.
choices that we can make to worry less together. And so, like, let's say like you're having a conversation that's going longer than you thought. You can email the person you're meeting with later and say, "Hey, could we either reschedule or could you meet 20 minutes later?" And you can sort of bring that into a shared field where you're not worrying about your schedule being blown up and like how it's going to cause all these problems. You're honoring the relationship, you're honoring their time, but you're also honoring the unique context of your day and the many competing things that we all have to deal with.
Mm. And life is complicated at times. It can be, and we need to take a look at that. And one way I think would be sometimes you need to be late. You get that? Sometimes you should be late. That's the title of Alex Snider's book, and his website is slowmindfulness.com. As we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Alex, this is a fascinating conversation because, we all deal with this, whether we are late or other people are late getting to us in whatever format we want to put that in, analog or digital in that respect. And I know too that also taking that slow mindfulness perspective when, for example, we're trying to get somewhere. For example, I don't know that we'll do it today. We might put it off until Thursday or Friday. Where we live now, we do not receive mail from the U.S. Postal Service where we live. We have to have a post office box. Now, first of all, I completely understand why the Postal Service is not delivering to the individual houses because we're up here in the mountains. And you park a mail truck along the side of the road delivering mail, you're now blocking the roadway because some of these roads are kind of narrow, especially with people parking on the side of the road. And that's probably just one aspect of why they don't. But they are open until 6 p.m. on the weekdays. And yet the counter closes at 5. So you can go to your post office box and get your mail. But if you've got a package that they have behind the counter, you better be there by 5 because otherwise you're not going to be able to get it. So we leave the house at 5. We know we're not going to get the packages. So, all right, fine. We'll go another day during the regular business hours of the counter and get our packages. It's an interesting little juxtaposition. And at the same time, they have a beautiful little feature online where it tells you, oh, you have these envelopes, and they actually have a snapshot of it. It's called, what's it called? It's called incoming delivery. You click on it and it takes you there. It tells you how many envelopes you've got waiting and how many packages, though they don't take pictures of the packages. But at least you don't have to make an unnecessary trip. Like if it's junk mail, I'm not going to make a special trip to the post office, that's 5 or 6 miles away, which isn't that far, but why make the trip? The junk mail will be there over the next couple of days. But again, the point being that there are certain things that we place priority on in terms of being on time. If, for example, when I made the commitment 2 years ago, still this month, June, to get my book published by September, I made that a priority. Whereas in months and years gone by, I would say that, but I hadn't quite made it a priority because obviously I'd made some other things priority. Timing is part of this prioritization too. And again, as I go back to what I said earlier about my book, over the previous years, maybe it's not time for it to be released. It's not, in other words, the world isn't quite ready for what I've written. But because I think you did use the word prioritizing or organizing in such a way that we are on time for the things that are of importance at the moment, in the now. All right. And the other things we'll deal with when it's important to deal with them.
It's about awareness, Richard. And
Yeah.
so let's take your example of the post office door gate closes at 5, the counter closes at 5. And let's say there's a package you want to pick up. There's a cost of being late to that. You have to
Mhm.
go back, you won't get your package. And our world is full of the cost of being late, whether that's like a personal shame, a sense of like you're not doing this thing, you didn't get your book published, like all these, the cost of being late are very obvious in our world. The thing that I don't think we're aware enough about is the cost of being on time. And so any number of scenarios where it's 4:45 and you're looking at your watch and saying, I can almost make it there. And the question is, what sort of trade-offs are you willing to make? Are you willing to speed and maybe get a ticket and
Mm.
maybe get in a car accident? If you're having a conversation with a loved one and it's actually a really important thing, are you willing to say, I gotta go. I know we're mid-conversation. And maybe that depends what's in the mail. Maybe that
Mm.
depends how important it is. If
Mm-hmm.
this is your passport and you're flying out first thing tomorrow morning, then cut off that conversation and say, I love you. I want to continue this, but I got to go. If it's some random thing from Amazon you don't need, then get it tomorrow. And so it's just my book is about awareness and then choice, like your book too.
Mm. Yeah. It's it can be perplexing, but at the same time, it seems like with the things you've laid out in your book, sometimes you should be late. It gives you sort of, again, with the awareness, it gives you an out not to expend unnecessary energy over the whole thing. That then detracts and could make you even later in whatever it is that you're already late for. So that, because those kinds of energies can really be debilitating. mentally, emotionally, and sometimes even physically over time if it's something that you do on a regular basis. Those kind of energies can wear on the physical body, let alone mental and emotional bodies, right?
100%. Look, I'm going to be honest.
Uh-oh.
Living an examined life, thinking about our choices in complex ways,
Yeah.
it's not the easy choice. It's part of the reason people have these set rules of either, you know what, time doesn't matter, just chill, or if you're not on time, you're late. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. The reason people do that, the reason I used to do that, was because there's a simplicity to it.
Mm-hmm.
But life is not simple. Life
Mm-mm.
is full of these complex trade-offs, these finite lives, these infinite decisions about how to spend our time. And to be fully in relationship with that, it's not the simple choice. And so, yes, there's a lot of unnecessary strain that we put on ourselves by worrying so much about being 30 seconds late, or when we're waiting on someone else being like, oh, they're so disrespectful, they don't care about my time. There's a lot of like unnecessary charge that we add to our life. And also to sort of to live an examined life where we're caring about our impact of our lateness on others, when we're noticing that we're judging someone for being late because of our own wounds and our past patterns, not because of anything about them.
Yeah.
It's not simpler. There's a level of complexity, but I think it's worth it because don't we all want to live lives where we're aligning our actions with our values, making choices to care about other people and being kind, not just going through the motions or living by pat rules that we just repeat because we were told them or because our culture tells us about them? It seems like that's what you're doing with this podcast. Is that right?
Yep. Just trying to and it's not just for those who are listening and watching or for the guest who's written the book on the subject. It's for me too. See, I use the phrase that these programs are my therapy. All right. Um, I'm still learning and growing and experiencing and so forth. Kind of like what I told my sister many years ago. I said, look, my beliefs of yesterday are not my beliefs of today, are not my beliefs of tomorrow for those reasons I've just cited. I don't have all the answers. I will never say I have the answers or all the answers. I'm trying to figure it out just like everybody else. And this program is part of that process.
Mm,
And
I
so
love
it
that.
it serves a multitude of purposes.
I love that.
And
And if I can just join with that,
Mhm.
me writing that book, this book, Sometimes You Should Be Late, it's not because I figured it out. It's a learning process. And even this conversation, I'm noticing things being affirmed in me and things coming up and things being challenged. Um, yeah, I didn't write this book because I have it perfect by
Oh,
any
darn,
means.
that's why we had you on, because you had all the answers now.
Sorry to disappoint you, Richard.
Well, I will say that these kinds of conversations are extremely important for us to have on a regular basis to keep us mindful of the fact that we're still trying to figure it out and that we don't mean, I know that some people, when you say, well, I don't mean to offend. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Blah, blah, blah. And then they go off and they say whatever they're going to say. And they, well, apparently, by virtue of you're trying to preface it by saying you didn't mean to, whatever, you obviously meant to because you had to preface it by saying, I don't mean to. Well, we don't mean to be disrespectful. We don't mean to be unaware and so forth. When I talk about, for example, when I talk about certain spiritual or religious things that I have gleaned from my experiences, I'm going to say that because I don't want to offend people. I don't want to disrespect anybody else's philosophies or beliefs or ways of life and so forth. And yet, this is what I have come to understand. At, and basically, this is what I've come to understand today. Tomorrow, I may have a different understanding because of an experience that I have had, kind of like what you're talking about with your book. It's like, okay, this is where I'm at today, and I'm not dead yet. I'm still breathing. So tomorrow is another day, and I may experience something that, oh, I've got to put out a new edition to Sometimes You Should Be Late. When I was doing my book online at the Amazon website, kdp.com, I think it is, for self-publishing. And I would find something in the text of the manuscript that I was working on my computer, and I'm going, oh, well, I'm going to change that. And then I would re-upload the manuscript. And so I was telling people I was doing that. They said, hey, don't keep re-uploading the manuscript, because the people who bought the book before you made that don't have that now. That's not in their download. Um, put all that stuff aside and just put out another edition later. You know, you know. But it's that's kind of the way life is.
Yeah,
Isn't
and
that why
maybe
we go to school in terms of education, from kindergarten or preschool through first to the primary and then the secondary, then we go to college? And to me, it's the same thing. For example, if someone is really heavy into, say, being physically fit, where maybe as a kid they're growing up and they're going through physical education classes and so forth. And then maybe in high school they join the football or basketball or baseball. And then maybe they go to college and they think, hey, this could be a great career. And they maintain that physical well-being, the quality of physical life.
yeah.
I,
So Richard, maybe just to sort of like to bring this conversation to sort of in the moment right now.
yeah.
So kind of like noticing right now we're about 15 minutes past our appointed time.
Hmm.
There's not a hard stop I have in my calendar, but I'm noticing that there's things in my life that I feel like I want to tend to. And so I'm noticing
Sure.
myself sort of wanting to sort of like bring this conversation to a close and see if there's any kind of last things you wanted to ask about before we don't call the conversation done, because it could go on for infinite time.
Sure.
But yeah, just wanted to see how that lands with you.
Lands well. Matter of fact, lands so well that I want to thank you for what you have shared with us at this point, and that we would like to have you back again to continue the conversation. And as far as additional questions, as I tell all of my guests, I have three final questions I ask all of my guests. And I appreciate all that you've shared with us and hope to have you back again to share even further.
Great.
Before I ask those three questions, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. Streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com, with podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're also on YouTube and Rumble with a video cast. We hope you'll click subscribe and click notification. We hope that you'll get a copy of my book, which is Choices, 5 Steps for Life, available at Amazon.com in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. We also hope that if you can help us out financially, we would be so grateful. I thank you to those who have and to those who will help. And we also hope that you will take some time during the Decade of Perfect Vision, to spend some time going within and listening to and following the promptings of that still small voice. And to that, we go to our special guest here on the program with our final three questions. And the first of those three is, who is Alex Snider?
Mm.
That's the question to you.
I'm someone who's aware that who I have been is not who I will be.
Hmm. What gets you up in the morning?
My energetic husky mix walnut, who just loves running and is also a very patient, but yeah, she's a beautiful being.
And finally, what was your best day?
Hmm. In my book, I quote from Winnie the Pooh, and it's today. Today's my favorite day. And it's cliche, and it's also the way that my mind works, because we live our lives forward. We don't live our lives backwards. And so just like I really want to honor the care that you put into having me as your guest, your thoughtful questions, and just really appreciate you, Richard, for what you're doing for the world.
And I thank you for that. I also thank you for your patience as well as consideration with what we've been going through here. And we look forward to having you back again. And I thank you folks for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to lol. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my brother, Michael, who lives all the way over in Vietnam, welcome to fatherhood. To my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.